A very good evening, Zimbabwe. You are listening to Studio 7 from the Voice of America on Wednesday, April 22nd, 2015. And this is Live Talk. I'm Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Kip Stube.
And tonight on Studio 7 Live Talk, we are talking about elections.
To join the discussion, phone us directly at this number, 001-202-619-2077, and we'll call you back.
And as usual, Live Talk goes out to Zimbabwe on our 909 medium wave frequency and on the 4930, 5940 and 15455 kilohertz shortwave, Monday through Friday at 8:30 p.m.
And on the internet, you can find us at www.voazimbabwe.com, www.voashona.com, and www.voindebele.com.
Once again, thanks for joining us, and you are listening to Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about elections.
The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission today began voter registration in constituencies where by-elections will be held to fill 14 National Assembly seats left vacant following the recall of MDC renewal lawmakers. The pilot voter registration will be held at various centers in the constituencies ahead of the June elections.
But the main opposition parties are boycotting the elections, calling for electoral reforms first. But as usual, there are also some smaller opposition parties that are contesting in the by-elections.
What do you think about this issue? If you wish to join the show right now, phone us directly at this number, 001-202-619-2077, and we'll call you back. That number again, 001-202-619-2077. Void.
Honguka hama dzadiwa nhasi tinoda kuti tige tichitarisa nezvenyaya yesarudzo pari kuitwa sarudzo muna chikumi umo muna June dzema by-elections kunzvimbo dziya dzakabviswa vamiriri vainzi vainge vaenda kubato reMDC renewal team. Asi mamwe mapato akaita sana MDCT, MDC inotungamirwa nava Washman Ncube nayo MDC renewal yacho vari kuti aiwa havasi kupinda musarudzo idzi kusvika pavandudzwa mitemo yesarudzo. Asi vamwe vakaita sana National Constitutional Assembly nemamwewo mapato vari kupinda musarudzo idzodzi, vana Transform Zimbabwe nevamwe. Toda kunzwa kubva kwamuri kuti muchine chivimbo here imi vateereri nesarudzo dzemuzimbabwe, kana kuti pane zvamuri kuonawo imi sezvinhu zvinoda kuti zvivandudzwe kuti sarudzo dzisarambe dzichiita mutauro. Gibbs.
Zulukandaba lingalithola njani njengoba sechilo-ke mfowethu lapho ukuthi-ke udaba esikhuluma ngalo namhlanje sikhuluma ngokhetho okumele lwenziwe khonapho sokufika-ke uJune. Sizwile-ke abanye bekhuluma ukuthi kunalokho kuthiwa i-voter registration okuqase namhlanje khonapha-ke kukhanyangazani kuzahanjwa endaweni eziningi, singathi ngama-constituencies angu-14 lapho kuyamele ukuthi abantu babhalise ukwenza ukuthi bavote. So okhanya ngani kuyahlupha khona manje ukuthi abantu abakwazi ukuthi kumele kuhambe njani njengoba kulabanye abathi abakwazi ukuthi kukhona khona lokho. Sifuna ukuzwa ngani Zulukandaba ukuthi kambe lina lithini ngakhona okuthiwa i-voter registration kuzobuya njalo ngokhetho oluzayo. Siyakwazi ukuthi-ke i-MDCT lamanye amabandla awe-MDC kawangeni kukhetho lolu. Bese kusithi-ke kulamanye amabandla amancane sibili kakhulu angena kulelo khetho. Zulukandaba nasi isikhathi ngeseno ngenani isixoxeni kunjalo ke mfowethu.
Of course, some bodies that are also calling on the government to reform the Zimbabwe Election Support Network. In their recommendations, they were also saying that government must ensure the full alignment of the electoral law to the constitutional provisions, especially the voter registration requirements in the electoral law. And of course, the right to vote should also be enshrined in the electoral law. These are some of the recommendations from the Zimbabwe Election Support Network, or ZESIN. I think we have our first guest, Gibbs. We have Mr. Joseph Chuma, ZANU-PF Central Committee member and parliamentary by-election candidate for Pelandaba Mpopoma constituency. Mr. Chuma, good evening.
Good evening. How are you, gentlemen?
We are doing great. And now, Mr. Chuma, there are some parties that are boycotting the elections, saying there is need for electoral reforms. What is your take on this?
The first thing that I would tell you from experience, because I'm one of the candidates, is that it's a total lie. These people have not boycotted as per se. What these people have done, MDC, for Tsvangirai and Welshmen and the renewals have all sort of developed chicken feet, and they are actually afraid to come into these elections because they probably knew that their defeat in these elections was going to actually be the last nail in their coffin politically. They were going to be dinosaurs. They're going to be extinct. So what they have done actually is that they've put in what you call independent candidates that they are actually backing for this election. So they're doing this in order for them to sort of test the voters and see if they still have that majority, if I may put it, or that electorate, if you may want to call it so, before they can be geared in and ready for the 2018 election. I'm saying this with full proof because I have a couple of my friends actually who were asked to stand in Pelanda Mampopoma constituency, for example, by MDCT, even Tsvangirai himself, and his vice president, Tozan Kupe, actually funding some of them, enticing them even with money to say, we're going to sponsor you, we're going to back you, please can you go and stand as an independent. So basically, the MDC is there, but it is there hiding behind its own fingers, which is to me, which is a politically suicide mission.
Is it political harakiri, as Mr. Chuma is saying? Gibbs, I think we have our two other guests. That is Mr. Obet Gutu, MDCT spokesperson, and also Mr. Madok Chivasa, spokesperson for the NCA. Gibbs.
Let's come to you, Mr. Gutu. I think you were listening to Mr. Chuma, who's saying that the MDC is actually participating in these by-elections, but is participating under certain kind of names, like independent candidate or something like that. So what is your take on that?
First of all, let me start by saying good evening, listeners. Thank you for having me. I was listening to Mr. Njovo's statement and
Mr. Chuma,
myself at last, really, because we have no business participating in these
Mr. Gutu, Mr. Gutu, Mr. Gutu,
and what we have said.
Mr. Gutu, we can hardly hear you. Maybe if you may relocate to another place.
Okay, let me relocate, all right?
We have to resettle you somewhere.
Here, I'm moving away from where I was seated to another location. Is it better?
Maybe we have to call you back, Mr. Gutu.
All right, no, that's enough.
Okay, Gibbs, maybe bring in Mr.
Yeah, okay, let's bring in Mr. Madok Chivasa of the NCA. Mr. Chivasa, I think you heard what Mr. Chuma was talking about. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, no, I heard what you were talking, but I cannot comment on behalf of the MDCT.
Certainly.
I don't know what happens in the MDCT. I represent the NCA.
That's right. So, but what do you think about, these by-elections, and that maybe some parties are hiding behind independence?
Yeah, like I said, if we are not interested, whether there are some people contesting as independents, but they are belonging to certain political parties. What we just know is the NCA is that we are using these by-elections to build our profile, to build our name as NCA party, also to introduce our party as a new party to people that those people who are now fed up with the chaos in the ZANU-PF and the chaos in the other opposition political parties who were there, like the MDCK, they now have another option in the name of the NCA. So that's basically what we're doing, to create another option for people, so that those who don't want those political parties which were existing, they can have another option, and that option is the NCA. So basically, that's what I can say in terms of what we're doing as NCA and how we're using this by-election to try and build an alternative voice.
And by the way, Mr. Chibasa, in one of the constituencies, you got 79 votes. You know, and we had a top party member of your party saying that is good enough for them to show that they're there. You know, that kind of thing. What do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly the party position. We were very glad and very happy and then say that we got 79 votes in Chiruma, Zimbabwe, when we were participating in that by-election. The difference is that, these by-elections, they are different. There are some by-elections that just emerge in areas where we don't even have a single person yet. And there are also by-elections that emerge where we are already there. So in the case of Chiruma, Zimbabwe, that is the case where we went there because there was a by-election. We did not even have a single person. We started to look for people to be there. So those 79 people, they are actually plus in terms of what we want to do. What we are simply doing is to build up to the 28 election. We are focusing at 28. We want to field candidates in all constituencies, MPs, and the candidates in all the 1,958 wards as councillors. So that's really any number that we get from this by-election to us is a win, because we are building a party for the future. We are not building a party that will end today or tomorrow. We are building an option for Zimbabweans.
Thank you so much. I think Mr. Gutu is now back. Mr. Gutu, we wanted you to respond to what Mr. Chuma had said, that you are using proxies.
Well, thank you, Blessing. Thank you for having me. Good evening, Zimbabwe. When I was listening to Mr. Chuma, I was just wondering why he had the audacity to actually make those kind of publications. The fact of the matter is that we are not participating in these elections directly or indirectly by way of proxy. The position is that we have got a resolution of Congress, which resolution has been upheld on more than one occasion by the National Council of the MDC. And as you know, in terms of our party constitution, the National Council is the highest decision-making body of the MDC in between congresses. We are not participating in these elections. And for Mr. Chuma to even have the audacity to allege that we are scared of ZANU-PF, it is actually laughable. Everyone knows that ZANU-PF is a party that is in terminal decline. ZANU-PF is a party that is incorrigibly divided, that is factionalized. We've got the Weevils who are in control at the moment. We've got the Gamatox faction, and we have the Gang of Four, and we've got several other sub-factions. So for anyone who stays in Zimbabwe in this day and age to say and with conviction argue that ZANU-PF is going to win a free and fair election, quite honestly, I think they would have smoked something. With respect, what Mr. Chuma is saying is laughable, and with respect, once again, it ought to be dismissed with the utter contempt that it deserves.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gutu Gibbs.
And I still remember, Mr. Chuma, you don't smoke something, right?
No, I mean, obviously I don't smoke, but look, I expect that kind of state of drunkenness from people like Honorable Gutu. Well, look, they've always been confused from day one. They've never known what they stand for. They've always been changing goalposts and changing things every time. Like, for example, the reason for them saying that they are not participating in this election, if you really try and search for it deep down in any archive, in any knowledgeable source, you can never find. You can never definitely find. They were in the GNU government. They should have done the reform then if they wanted any reform to be done. So now they're outside. How do they expect that there's going to be any reform that will favor them if at all something like that should happen? But look, what we are saying is that there's nothing wrong with our electoral system. Right now, I remember on Monday, ZEC actually called all candidates that are participating in this coming, this forthcoming by-elections, and they even called their chief election agents as well to that meeting where all things were laid down, all procedures were actually put into system, so that at the end of the day, when everybody goes down to the playing field, the field will be level. So there is no question about credibility. There's no question about fairness. There's no question about openness. But you see, I really wonder what this group actually stands for. I don't think they stand for the people of Zimbabwe. They don't stand for the electorate itself. Because if they did, I'm sure that vision should have come from the electorate, not them as the bosses or the top hierarchy in the party to just sit down and say, well, we're not participating. Are you not disadvantaging the person that initially voted for you in the first place? Those are the kind of questions that you ask. And then that's when you actually see that, we are dealing with a very tricky team, a very treacherous, sort of grouping. And look, they can say whatever they say. They can think that we're high on Dhaka or something. But what we can tell you is that we are in these by-elections, and we are going to reclaim these seats that we have lost for the past 18 years. Actually, we haven't won a seat in Bulawayo. So now, this time, we are going to win, and when we go in, we are going to go in to stay forever, because we will start delivering for people. People will begin to realize what they've been missing out by not voting for ZANU-PF, because we are going to deliver.
Mr. Gutu, let's get to the weeds here. What exactly do you want to be reformed?
We have made it very clear, but for the benefit of the millions of listeners who are listening right now, let me just start with the most important reform that we want is to have a legitimate and up-to-date, accurate voters' roll. Not only for those 14 constituencies that are going to have by-elections in June, but for the entire length and breadth of the country, from the Zambezi to the Limpopo. What we want done is ZEC should be able to use its constitutional mandate to commence afresh a biometric national voters registration exercise. Why we say so is because the symbolic voters roll that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission was given by the Office of the Registrar General can never give rise to an election that can pass the test of legitimacy. I'll give you an example. When we did an analysis, for instance, of the voters roll for the Chirubanzu Zimbabwe by-election that was conducted a few weeks ago, we found out that it was littered with several inaccuracies, where you find that in one ward there were 7,000 new voters who were added in between July 31, 2013 and about February 2015. That's showing that it is not possible for you to have that kind of increment in the number of voters in a typically rural constituency like Chirumanzu, Zimbabwe. And in another constituency, about 5,000 to 6,000 people have their names deleted from July 2013 and February 2015. And it is quite impossible to say that you can have 5,000 or 6,000 people either dying in one rural ward or transferring or whatever, which means that there's been a lot of gerrymandering of the voters' roll. And Mr. Chuma will be the first one to agree that the ZEC Secretariat is actually staffed by military and security operatives. We have the evidence, we know the story, we have beyond a shadow of doubt that the ZEC is actually being run by a shadowy rigging mechanism, that they actually have an expert from Nikuv who is stationed on a full-time basis at the King Barracks just near State House in Harare, whose full-time job is to just play around with the voter roll and to make sure that whatever voter roll that is there in Zimbabwe at the moment is not a clean voter roll.
Thank you, Mr.
The long and short of it is that ZEC, I don't have a clean voter roll, that's one. Two, we also say that political parties, that does not only mean the NDC, led by Morgan Tsvangirai. We're talking of all political parties and all political players should have free and unfettered access to the state-controlled print and electronic media. It is a notorious fact that as I'm speaking right now, the NDC and all other political parties, including my brother, Maddox of NPA, have no access whatsoever to ZTV, have no access whatsoever to the 4 radio stations run by the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation Private Limited. 3, we also want to have a situation where traditional leaders, particularly in rural areas, are not forced to be political actors. We have a situation where, for instance, in Urunga West, there is a man who goes by the name Ignatius Chombo, who came out on national television a few days ago, literally threatening chiefs to say, if you are seen to be anywhere near where Kemba Mlisa is holding a rally or a meeting, then you are going to be in trouble. So we are saying traditional leaders should be traditional leaders. They should not be forced to be political activists. We want a situation where, in terms of the new constitution of Zimbabwe, traditional leaders are not only apolitical, but are seen to be apolitical. I could go on and on and on, but there's actually a cocktail of measures that we would like to be put in place to ensure that the ZANU-PF regime, particularly the dwindling and collapsing rival faction of the ZANU-PF regime, is not given its cake in order to eat it.
Thank you so much. Gibbs, you have a caller?
Ye ngilo mama lapha osecingweni unkosikazi kumbe unkosazana Juliet ngibani ngikhuluma la ye? Ngubani?
Juliet.
Ye sabona mama sicela uskiphe ku speakerphone sondele phone yakho ungafaki ku speakerphone.
All right.
Ye uyasi
mina ngithi
ye khuluma.
Angivumela ukukhuluma ngochuma ukuthi khona amanye amabashisaba abantu lokuthi bayarika so abantu bangena izinto zingalotshwanga kubi.
Ye so akukhulume la uchuma sizwe ukuthi ungamtshelani?
Ya wena baba chuma into ekhulumayo mina ngizwana angisanda yavumela njalo xa amanye i-MDC bayisaba ukuthi bazadliwa abadliwa ngoba nathanda ukurika.
Bamba khonapho mama baba chuma uyazwela lawe umama uthi lina
ayizwakala ukuthi ifoni yakhe ibingane
ye ubekhuluma sithi kazwalani la khona ukukhuluma ngakho ngoba ucabangela ukuthi ZANU-PF ijale ukuriga ama-elections ngamphendula khonapho.
Right, ngike ngibuze nxa siriga ama-election indaba singariganga koBulawayo where we didn't get even one seat, right? Why didn't we rig Harare where we didn't even get half of the seats there? Why didn't we get seats from towns like Ogweru, Mudare and stuff like that? It shows that as a rig, but it's stronghold here. Rural provinces, because the people there have something to defend. The people there understood the party very well. That's why they would vote unanimously for the party.
Yeah, ngubamba umlomo Chuma.
Yes.
Yeah, ngena futhi mama khona you are hearing Mr. Chuma is saying yeah, uyala.
Engikutsho kuba uChuma njengeparty abalungisisi izinto zihambe kuhluze ukuthi uhambe eketheni ekhululekile kwazi ukuthi yavota wethu. Akho ukuthi sesivota kwabo.
Ya ifoni kamama ingani yahlupha sicela hamba mbijana ukuthi sikuzwe kuhle hamba mbijana mama ye asikuzwa kuhle hamba sibone
All right.
Usitshele ukuthi usendaweni enjani
Ya lapha ke kude.
ye hamba mbijana pho ukuthi ke mbijana nje ye khuluma ke isonde ifoni emlonyeni ungafaki ku speakerphone
ya mina ngithi babuchuma kumele babone ukuthi ukuthi abantu bakwazi ukuba uma-election abantu bonke bekhululekile akho ukuthi kuyobuyiwa uma-election abanye besala so ngabona abantu besala ukuthi there's something okungaphumi kuhle kungenzeka belokhu bekwenza.
Ye hayi sikuzwile mama ukuthi ifoni yakhe leza kodwa siyabonga kakhulu sizazama ukufonela futhi kusasa ukuthi enxa ifoni yabe singcono sibongile kakhulu so yeah so Mr. Chuma, I think you heard what she was saying. She's saying that people may go for elections.
Mama Juliet, into ekhona nje ukuthi bona sidila lamadoda labo mama abangamagwala abesabe umncintiswano akula lutho olunye oludlula khona phana ngoba vele kuyaziwa ukuthi for the past 18 years bebelokhu behlala besinqoba ngobulawayo so inxa bekwazi khona okwanto vele bahlala besinqoba indaba engabuya ngabazongena emncintisweni lo utshengisa nje ukuthi hayi sidila lamagwala kuphela ngoba vele abadala bayathi notakwabo kwagwala kulasilini kodwa ke this time around ngibona ngathi hayi 18 years lezi abantu belokhu bebazama abantu sebona hayi akula lutho sebefuna ukuphenduka ekhaya abantu sebefuna ukubuya lapho tried and tested bafuna ukubuya lapho ababona khona imizekeliso kwezinye indawo ungakhangela kwezinye indawo intuthuko iyahamba iyaphambili ngoba kulama MPs awezana uphephe ibandla elibusayo izinto ziyenzakala impilo zabo ziyatshintsha ziba ngconywana noma singakafiki ku level siyifunayo ngakho lakobulayo futhi abantu labana sebekubona ukuthi 18 years khangela iZimbabwe le 35 years independence so which means that amadoda laba they've been in power for over half the years of Zimbabwe actually ngoba i-35 years ihalf yakona ngo-17 and a half kodwa bona sesibuse for 18 years kungena lutho olwenzakeleyo so I think this time abantu bakobulawayo sebezimisele ukuthi hayi ake sibuyele sike sibone laba esivele singani siyabazi njalo siyabona kwezinye indawo ukuthi kona kwenziwa njani lathi sike sihambe labo so this time noma ngabe bekhona fair kumbe nqa bekhona ngama-progs yabo hayi batshayiwe.
Yes, so what Juliet was saying is she was actually claiming that ZANU-PF normally rigs elections. But then Mr. Chuma is saying, no, if we're rigging elections, we would not have got nothing in Bulawayo. You know, Bulawayo has been a problem to ZANU-PF. So he says, if they had that capacity to rig, they couldn't even rig in Bulawayo.
Rega tidzoke kune vachivasa muri kufara here nemafambisirwo ari kuitwa sarudzo dzachida muri kupinda.
Yeah, maita vamwe vangu vanenge vari kutaurisa kutereni isusu tiri musangano uchangotanga saka ndofunga kuti nyaya yekuti tiri kufara kana tisi kufara kupinda kwedu musarudzo umu tiri kupinda musarudzo umu kuti tizive zvacho zviri kuitwa ZANU-PF kana pane zvishenge zviri kuitana navagutu vanga variko kudhara seMDC statistical sense chainguva kuchiita zveNGO but patakazoita political party tanguva ne1 year ne6 months kama elections atoti basa tizive kuti kana pane pari kurigwa nezANU-PF ndepapi pavari kuriga pati tine maproblems katakuta zvokuti tikuda mareforms ndeapi mareforms atiri kuda saka isusu sarudzo dziri kutibatsira kuti tinge tiziva kuti maelections anoranwa sei isusuwo kuno sepolitical party tinotsvaga mavhoti sei kana takuenda kuvanhu tinenge tichienda kosei tichitaura tenge tichida kunge tichitaura kuti vanhu saka kwatiri isusu vatiri kufara zvikuru kuti maby-elections aya ari kutidzidzisa semusangano wensemunyuwana tatokura zvikuru nemaby-elections vatakuziva zvakawanda zvokuti patozosvika muna 2018 tetiri musangano wakasimba zvokuti patosangana musarudzo neZANU-PF zvokuti vanoriga kana kuti ndofunga kuti ipapo zvichavaremera sereki nokuti tiri kunyatsokuruka musangano unoziva zvauri kuita.
But you have been participating. Which areas would you say might need reform, Mr. Chivasa?
Yeah, like issue ambotaura navagutu yekuti ZANU-PF ndo inobuda ichitaura yega pamamedia iyo atenge kuti media inofanira ichingwa kumunhu wese chepublic media ndonga isusu pane paitwa maelections ekuchiruma zezimbabwe nekumanzaro west inini ndakatombonyorera tsamba kuzek ichida tiri kufara nenyaya yekuti makandidate eZANU-PF aibudiswa even paZBC ongobudisa chazokuti ari
vachivasa imbobatai makadaro will be back shortly. Mr. Chivasa, Mr. Chuma and Mr. Gutu, please do stay on the line, and our radio listeners, please note we are streaming live, so go to www.voazimbabwe.com and press on live talk. This is Blessing Zulu
and I'm Kips Tube Baba Nkosana kuna pekingwani bamba siyabuya kuna manje siyabonga.
for those of you who are just joining us, good evening, and this is Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about elections in Zimbabwe. Of course, there are going to be by-elections on the 10th of June, and some opposition parties have decided to boycott those elections, calling for electoral reforms. And the ruling ZANU-PF party is saying the opposition parties that are boycotting the elections are simply afraid that they will be trounced by ZANU-PF. We want to hear from you, Gibbs.
If you wish to join the show right now, phone us directly at this number 001-202-619-2077 and we'll call you back. That number again 001-202-619-2077. And our guests are tonight Mr. Matok Chibasa of the NCA, Mr. Obed Gutu, MDCT spokesman, and Mr. Joseph Chuma, who is a ZANU-PF Central Committee member and parliamentary by-election candidate for Pelandaba Popoma constituency. Yes, Poma Lapaka Nkudleni, Kate Kulumnumza Uspas.
Of course, Mr. Chiwasa, whose party, the NCA, is one of the parties participating or contesting the elections, was telling us about what they've noted so far in the previous elections that they've participated in. Mr. Chiwasa, you can finish your thought.
Yeah, okay. I was saying, like, for example, the way ZBC was covering ZANU-PF candidates, it was as if they were contesting themselves, because they would just talk about the, ZANU-PF candidates, and they would not even elaborate to say the other candidates are also or there are also other political parties participating in those by-elections. So we wrote to ZEC, and that was rectified. Later on, we could actually see that change. Of course, they were not covering our gatherings, but whenever they were now covering ZANU-PF candidates, they would then mention the other candidates. Then the other issue is that as we will be campaigning, we also have problems that, people will be pulling down posters, and that should not be allowed. So like political parties like us, we just start seeing to a political party, we're not funded by anyone. So when we make a sacrifice, we get 2 or 3 posters to be displayed for voters to see that we candidates who are also campaigning. When someone just comes and they pull down those posters, it makes that play field uneven, because you are pulling down our posters. Even if you decide to pull down yours, you still have the money to print more posters tomorrow. But us, we don't have that money. So those things is something that we think it contributes to the unfairness of the playing field.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chiwasa. Gibbs.
Yeah, ngilomnumzana ke unkosana eZimbabwe lapha ecingweni baba nkosana utshona njani? Ukhona ecingweni baba nkosana?
Yebo ngikhona baba.
Ye kunjani?
Hayi ngiyaphila baba linjani lini?
Ngiphile kakhulu ngapho khonapho?
Ngisenkayi baba.
Kunjani enkayi?
Hayi enkayi baba sibona indlala nje.
Uyakwazi isikhobokobo?
Yeah, ngikhona apho induna yami usikhobokobo.
Awuboni vele ukuthi mina ngangaba inyanga phela.
Ya ngiyakubona sithi ngusibhulo omkhulu.
Ngaza bakuthika mtanda nje.
Hayi awuzalanga ngokuthika mtanda wazala indoda.
Awuboni ke. Ye ungathini ke ngodaba lo?
Ye baba siyaluza udaba lokukhulunywa lama election baba. Laba amaphathi MDC woyithunga ngangeni ehlelweni aright kakhulu baba ngoba iZANU-PF baba ayiqondile into zayizenzayo baba.
Poke ye qhubeka.
Ngoba baba sesithwele nzima lapha eZimbabwe baba ngeZANU-PF. Khathesi ivoters roll ayilunganga, akulanto eqondileyo kodwa bona babiza ukhetho abafuna ukulungisa ivoters roll. Yeah.
So abantu bathini kodwa nxa ubona khona lapha bankosana ngokungena kukhetho lo?
Hayi abantu vele bayakhonona kakhulu bathi ingcono amaphathi angangene ekhethweni izihambele nje iyodwa iZANU-PF ngoba ifuna ukuhamba iyodwa. Yeah.
Kambe ubona ngazani ke nxa abantu bangangena kukhetho lo kuyaphumani khona?
Vele baba ukhetho njengoba ngabangangene ephethweni akulalutho esizakuphuma lalo baba iZANU-PF izozihambele iyodwa ngoba sebelungisile konke uburobhani babo bakulungisa bawuqeda so bazisingene ekhethweni akulanto esizayenza.
so ke singathi usekelana le bandla le-MDCT elingangeni kukhetho lolo.
Mina kodwa ngikurenewal la ngiyalisekela kakhulu baba.
So ungatshelana abantu beZimbabwe ngokhetho lolo olubuya.
Ebantwini beZimbabwe bakithi abantu bengakhali kakhulu ngokhetho luka-10 June even izanu ngazingene yodwa kuyazakala ukubana izanu ithanda ukudla yodwa ayifuni ukuthi abantu beZimbabwe bekhululeke ifuna ukuthi bona bezithathele into zabo bezifakele esikhwameni abantu beZimbabwe behlupheke.
Sibongile kakhulu ke mnumzana Nkosana khona ngapho ke kosikhobokobo enkayi
hayi lami ngibongile baba.
Yes, sibongile kakhulu baba.
Yeah,
first of all, before I proceed with what you are saying, you know, I predicted that you was in Skoboko. Maybe, do you think I can be a good...
Sangoma.
Sangoma, yeah, so what Mr. Nkosana was saying is that, you know, the outcome of the by-elections is already predictable.
Yeah.
Because he claims that ZANU-PF is always, you know, manipulating some of these systems. And he says that he's an MDC renewal party member, and he supports the view, you know, that no one should participate in these by-elections.
Yes. Do you have another?
No, I think I'm done with the callers, but maybe read one or two lines here. So I've got some messages on Facebook, and one of them is from Frederick, who says, I registered today for the by-elections, but nothing appears to have changed. ZEC is on the ground and doing what it knows best. Then we've got a message again from Usihlobo, who writes in Ndebele utikona, izeki na nxa inganchintsha kuzobuya kufane akusizi ngalutho vele ingaqhubeka ukwenza konke lokho. So he's saying that even if ZEC is actually conducting this exercise, nothing is going to change.
We have messages on WhatsApp. First, we have Aram who says, no reforms, no election, not interested at all. Mutsopotsi says, I am not registered, but I believe, in my own view, the process is as usual and not fair and free. As long as electoral reforms are not met, it's a one political party race, especially ZANU-PF. Nothing new from this process. Clement says, no reforms, no elections. It is helpless to engage in a rigged election. Pedzisai says, we are not in these elections. Let there be reforms first. Stop intimidating people so we can choose and decide our destiny as Zimbabweans. Columba says, no sober-minded and democratic Zimbabwean would like to register and participate in these already rigged by-elections. Let's think about how we can have the next meal. Zvakasunga mukoma, he says all is not well. Let me come back to you, Mr. Chuma, and say, Mr. Chuma, are these calls for reforms like in the media, the voters' roll, for example, not genuine?
Well, look, we are not ZBC, we are not ZEC either, ZANU-PF. We are also a political player in this whole thing. But, okay, I'll put it on record that I remember we discussed this, I think a month ago again, where I said we also want those reforms to be done properly, and we look forward to Parliament sort of synchronizing all these laws in the new constitution and bringing them together to today's sort of living standard. So there's nothing amiss about that, and we actually pray and hope for that as well. But I can tell you for a fact that some of these things have been taken into account already by ZEC. Like I said, voter registration is being done right now. On Monday, we had all candidates coming down to ZEC's offices, and I think a whole day was spent on lecturing and teaching each other about how to conduct elections and how to conduct ourselves when we're going down to campaign. Look, we definitely want everybody to be covered properly. And like I said, you must always remember this, and please hear this. Listen to this very carefully, because I'm going to say it for the last time, and I hope this time, even the dad ahead is going to understand. If ZANU-PF was a rigging machine, would never lose any seat because we would want all seats. And we would have a situation whereby in Bulawayo, for example, where I come from, we would also have seats there because we will be a master of rigging. But the fact that we lose, especially these urban seats, clearly is an indication that we do not rig elections. We go into elections like any other player in the political field, and we lose where probably we're not popular or people do not understand us, and we win where we understood. And I want even the MDC people to understand that and appreciate that. If they are winning in towns, it doesn't mean that they are rigging. And yet they are losing in the rural areas, you see. We do not rig elections. We go into elections square and fairly. That is why we are losing them in other places. As simple as all that. And I hope everybody will understand that. And I hope my learned colleague, Mr. Gutu, will also understand that, because surely, as a lawyer and a learned person, he must simply understand that kind of mathematics. If we're Nikuv, like he said, then we're going to Nikuv Bulawayo as well. We're going to Nikuv the whole of Harare. We're going to Nikuv all the seats and then just go into everything. You see? But because the reality is that we also go in fairly and squarely. We lose some, we win some. And that's the nature of life. You always win some and you lose some. And when you lose some, do not then be spiteful and start saying, we've been rigged, this and that. You must accept defeat honorably and move on and work harder so that next time you improve where you actually lost from. And I think if we take it from that perspective, then we're going to start being positive and looking forward to these elections. The reforms are going to come as we go. The most important thing is that let us all be there. But if somebody doesn't want to participate, well, tough luck for them. Nobody forces anybody to participate anyway. It's so true we want to participate, we shall be there and we are going to participate. And we are not going to take this election lightly and think that it's a walkover. Because like I said before, definitely some of these independent candidates that are coming in are definitely sponsored or backed by either the renewal team or MDCT. So we are not sleeping, we are not relaxing, we are working hard, we are going to do door-to-door campaigns. And believe me, there's not going to be any violence. We are going to be meeting our brothers from MDCT, from MDC Renewal, from ZAPU, from NCA, and we're going to campaign together harmoniously. We are not, especially in my constituency, I can promise you that there's never going to be any violence because we don't believe in that as a party. Our policy is that no violence. That is why our president has been on record preaching about peace beginning with you, peace beginning with me, and peace beginning with all of us. And we are going to do that in a peaceful manner. And if we win, we're going to win because we deserve to win, and because maybe the people now are changing their mindsets. They are now thinking outside the box. They are no longer in a situation whereby, I can tell you that from 2000, even if MDC had fielded a donkey in some of these elections, the donkey was going to definitely win. Because people were just angry with us. They didn't want us at all. But now I think people are beginning to realize that, but in other provinces, in other areas where ZANU-PF is alive and kicking, those people are living a better life. Those people are progressing day by day, even if it's a minor progression, but it is progress anyway. So
Mr. Chuma, let's
want us to come to Bulawayo and do the same thing.
Let's bring in Mr. Gutu. Mr. Gutu, Mr. Chuma, of course, is saying that if ZANU-PF was indeed rigging, it should win 100%. But the fact that it is not winning in some constituencies in Harare and Bulawayo means that it is clean. Is it because it is clean, or is the African proverb goes, if you are in hiding, you don't have to light a fire?
ZANU-PF is anything that's clean, blessing. I'm sure Comrade Chuma will be the first one to admit that ZANU-PF has got a well-documented history of electoral violence. And when they realized that the June 2008 so-called presidential runoff was marred by unprecedented physical violence and was roundly condemned globally, they then designed a new strategy of rigging. And what they did now was to engage the services of this company known as Niku. For those of the listeners who have access to the internet, they can just just Google Nikuv and they'll get all the details of this Israeli-based company, which actually is a well-known company when it comes to gerrymandering of elections. And I'm sure Comrade Chuma would also agree with me that what ZANU-PF do is then obviously to try to create a veneer of legitimacy. They are obviously embarrassed to have a clean and total whitewash where they would have all the seats in both houses of parliament or in all the municipal and rural district councils. So what they do is they will gerrymander and try to say, okay, these seats we are going to give to MDC, these seats we are going to retain them. I'll give you a typical example of the July 31st, 2013 election, where I was the deputy chief presidential election agent for Morgan Changirai. And I actually have it on record that 6 constituencies in Mashengo province had actually been won, quote-unquote, by the MDC. The Nikuv guys had said, look, it would be embarrassing to say all 24 seats in ZANU in the Mashengo province are going to be won by ZANU-PF. Let's give this MDC guys 6 seats. And actually, command was delivered from the shadowy forces that ran back to the effect that the MDC should not have a single seat in Mashengo province. And this is why you find seats were then given to ZANU-PF. This is how ZANU-PF operates. We have been on record to say that ZANU-PF is not a conventional political party. Ever since the war years, ZANU-PF has been a communist political organization run along de facto mafia lines. It is quite possible that Comrade Chuma himself might not know how ZANU-PF is run, because the guys who were privy to the Nikuv machinations were less than 6 people in ZANU-PF. And I can tell you for certain, because I know this, that very few people in ZANU-PF were aware of how the shenanigans of Nikuv were being done. I actually have friends in ZANU-PF who were surprised, and who phoned me to say, I'm surprised totally that I've won this election in this constituency, because I knew that I was not going to win. But thanks to Nikuv, which was paid top dollar through monies from the diamonds of Marange, they managed to win those seats. So this is the situation we are in Zimbabwe. We are dealing with the rogue regime. We are not going to participate in any elections where there are no reforms. We are not going to legitimize the vote. And I can assure Comrade to remind all listeners, the millions of listeners who are listening here now, that for as long as ZANU-PF remains in this mode of stealing elections, cheating the people, Zimbabwe will remain a pariah state.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kutu. Let's bring in Mr. Chibasa. Briefly, Mr. Chibasa, you know, waiting for reforms in Zimbabwe may be like waiting for the rain. And we know that it may not rain after all. And are you proactive yourselves, you know, in terms of trying to activate the whole system to implement these reforms?
Yeah, no, I think there's one thing that you need to understand, that we are operating with a new constitution that was written by those political parties who were in the inclusive government. So you find out that the reason why there's a difference in terms of approach by the NCA, you remember that it was the NCA that was advising and the political parties who were crafting this constitution. We were reminding them about fundamental issues that we thought they were left out in that constitution, which made the elections not credible. For example, you remember that I almost lost my voice when we were debating here. I think from the MDC, it was Douglas Mondora was the co-chairperson of COPAC. You know that there were differences of opinion when the NCA would say that there is no diaspora vote in this constitution. And it was actually the MDC that will move around telling people that this concept, there is a diaspora vote. So the difference in terms of our approach is that what we did preferred is to have a good new constitution, which was going to get most of the things which my friends are now crying for now. They now expect that suddenly if the electoral act is aligned with the new constitution, then all of a sudden we have the people in the diaspora voting, for example. But that will not happen. But if you take thing governing these elections. No one will actually teach us on that. It was actually us, the NCA, we're trying to tell the political parties to say, no, look, if you do 1, 2, 3 things, these elections will not be free and safe. We'll get a consent that is bad. But of course, we now have that bad consent in place. What we're simply doing is the NCA, we are now getting people, we are now moving around as a political party to get those masses that will allow us to have a voice as NCA. We will start to fight the ZANU-PF in terms of the provisions in this constitution, in terms of the electoral act, in terms of most of the rules governing elections that we think are not proper. For now, what we're simply doing is that we are looking for people so that we are a credible voice. When we have that credible voice, we will start to oppose this consent. As far as we're concerned, we don't even recognize this consent. This is a consent that came from greedy politicians who thought that they were going to be the leaders of the day after elections. So now some of them are now crying, which is quite unfortunate. But as far as we're concerned, we know the laws are bad governing these elections, but we're going to fight them. Now, for now, we don't have that way. For example, the way the MPP is doing, they're boycotting elections is another way of, fighting bad laws. As far as we are concerned, the NCA, we cannot take that option, for example, because we don't even have those people to tell to boycott. We are looking for people, but probably when time is right for us, we've got the critical mass. We can also tell our people to boycott elections. But for now, we are looking for people so that we will actually fight ZANU-PF in terms of these bad laws that are there.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tinemwe Mterere Gibbs. Mkoma Roland Magadi. Mkoma Roland? Nare. Mkoma Roland muripo iri parinare. Namba yacho inenge iri kuti netsei Gibbs.
Ngasingabuyela kuba Chuma. Baba Chuma uzwile lapha bakhuluma umnumzana uChibasa lo mnumzana uGutu. Bathi khona vele kungani akulanto ezakuquka la. Ngoba izanu izibambe esidukwini phela. Ubona njani? Njalo kumele kwenziweni.
Right, the first thing that I must say is that I've been amused listening to Honorable Gutu. I think Honorable Gutu would do very well if he tried the field of movies. He seems like he's a very good fiction storyteller. The thing that we are talking about is all fiction here, and it's so amazing how he can make up such things and talk about Nukuv and the top 6 people that know about Nukuv and all those imaginary things. Look, I said it before and I'll say it again. ZANU-PF is not a rigging machine. If we were rigging, we would at least even say, okay, in Bulawayo, for example, we've got 12 constituencies. Let's rig 6 of them, and they belong to ZANU-PF, and the other 6 then we can give them away to MDCT or something like that. And same as in Harare, and same as in other major cities and towns. But because, like I said, it's always free, fair, and square. We lose where we lose, and we win where we win. It's as simple as that. You don't need a degree to understand that. You don't need a doctor to understand that. You don't need to be a professor to understand that. It's a simple mathematical thing. If we're rigging, we're not going to just allow Bulawayo province to not even have one seat, just one seat. Come on, people. Let's be serious about this. We are learned people. Honorable Gutu is actually MP plus a lawyer. Look, let's use our simple common sense or reasoning to understand that if we're rigging, we're going to get some of these seats at least and not have any province where we don't even have anything. Come on, look at the council. It's the same story. All 29 councillors in Bulawayo belong to MDCT. Surely, if we had a rigging mechanism or system, we're going to rig at least half of those, and they become ours as well. Because we in Bulawayo also would not want a situation whereby we don't have seats at all, we don't have a say at all, whether in council or in governance like in parliament. And you must remember that even ministers, when they are appointed from MPs. Right now, if you look at Bulawayo, it does not have any ministers except for the Minister of State. So do you think we're going to just sit back and allow all this situation to happen, yet we knew with a rigging system or a rigging mechanism? Come on, people, let's be serious about this. Honorable Gutu, be serious about this.
Mr. Gutu, Mr. Chuma is saying Hollywood is beckoning for you.
I would like to get the values. On the more serious note, blessing. Comrade to mind, folks, is very much aware of the electoral history of this country. He knows that in his heart of hearts, the ZANU-PF cannot win any free and fair election in Zimbabwe at any time. Getting back to even before the MDC was formed, we can go as far back as the days of Zapo and Dr. Josangomo. We can go back even the days of Zoom, the days of Zulu, Joanda, Margaret Dongo. We can retrace the electoral shenanigans of ZANU-PF going back to, I think the last election that ZANU-PF won, that was near free and fair, was the election that was held in 1990. That was the last election that ZANU-PF won free and fairly. For the past 25 or so years, ZANU-PF has been leading elections. And Comrade Shuma, in his heart of hearts, knows this. All they do is they are embarrassed to give themselves all the shit for it. And they know that Mulawa has always been a political hotbed. So they want to give the impression to say, okay, Mulawa, people don't want us. So they would deliberately not rig, or they will put a rigging machinery that will ensure that at least the people who vote will have their vote protected. But I can assure you that here in Harare, elections were rigged in Bahrain. Elections were almost rigged in Harare East, where I'm a registered voter. Elections were rigged in airports. Elections were almost rigged in HQs. And we had to put some extraordinary measures to ensure that the rigging mechanism in every constituency was thwarted at the 11th hour. But we failed to do that in Mount Pleasant. I was there in Alexandra Park Primary School, where I saw literally 4,000 to 6,000 young voters, some of them barely out of their teens, all of them in police uniform, supposedly voting in smart brand new police uniform. And you can't tell me that you have about 5,000 to 6,000 to 7,000 police officers who are registered voters in Mount Pleasant constituency. There's nothing like that. I can go on and on and on because of the data with the person figures. But anyway, for the benefit of the listeners, let me say this. For as long as ZANU-PF remains the commandist and cheating political mafia organization that it is, Zimbabwe will remain a pariah state.
Thank you.
When locked in this political mess, the economy will continue to go down up until such a time that ZANU-PF agrees to electoral reform. No reforms, no election.
Thank you, Mr. Gutu. Mr. Gutu. Thank you so much. Arega titori muterero kupedzira mukoma obey.
Nani makadi.
Tiripo edu makadiwo nyaya iri mudariro mainzwa taurai tinzwa.
Zvakuita vantu zinga varimati mubvunzo wangu ndokuti MDC zvavari kuramba kupinda mumaelection. Chii chava chaita kuti chichamanikidza ZANU-PF kuti izoti irikuda kugadzisa zvinhu izvo noizvi zvavari kutaura izvi kuti zvigadziswa haisi nyore kuti zvinongomuka zvangonzi MDC yaramba kupinda mumaelection hatigadzise zvinhu izvozvo.
Vagutu pindurai vamukoma obey tinzwa.
Comrade Obey, tichaita zvakawanda pari zvino tiri kuita tingati muchirungu a three-pronged approach. Tine a political approach yatiri kuita press on the ground tichisangana navanhu vedu tichivatsanangurira vana vezimbabwe kuti nemhaka yedu kuti maelections atingatopinda maelections akabirwa tisati tombomatanga tichiita mutangano masapota zvedu kusangana nemastakeholders akasiyana-siyana zimbabwe yose
vagutu tine urombo namukoma obey time yenda haina kumira zvakanaka. Tinotenda zvikuru. We want to thank Mr. Joseph Chuma, ZANU-PF, Mr. Madok Chivasa, NCA, and Mr. Obed Gutu, MDCT, and all our callers, our viewers, our listeners, those who send messages to us, and of course our crew behind the scenes, our engineers and producers. Signing off, this is yours truly, Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Gibbs Dube saying good night, Zimbabwe.
Welcome.
Lancement d'un atelier formation qui a duré 3 jours.
Il y a une décision qui prend pour ne pas faire élection.
Dans le cadre sommet sur la finance, thème.
Il y a une évolution considérable.
Ça, ouais, c'est tout le département qui est là, c'est tout le marché de saline qui est venu, qui mène.
Une perquisition était effectuée à son domicile qui permettait notamment la découverte.
Welcome to the Voice of America in Creole.